What is up, everybody? Welcome into this week's episode of It's Called Football on the Vendetta Sports Media YouTube channel. Jerry Walker alongside me, as always, is Jackson Fyda. And Jackson, no Premier League action this past weekend. We had the FA Cup. We will dive into some of those results, some big shocks in that one. Champions League happened. We'll touch on Man City in that because another just disastrous game. Final Merseyside Derby at Goodison Park happened yesterday as we are recording on Thursday, February 13th. And then we'll preview some of the matches this upcoming weekend. But before we hop into all the footy news and all the stories, how are you doing on this Thursday afternoon?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Had some interesting stuff happen yesterday and the day before, so a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah, that is for sure. And we'll start with what happened yesterday. Everton, Liverpool, the final Merseyside Derby at Goodison Park before they disbanded this season at the end of the year. And this lived up to everything we expected it to. 11 minutes in, Beto gets Everton a 1-0 lead. They almost scored even earlier, but didn't quite happen. Beto gets them up 1-0. 5 minutes later, Alexis McAllister levels it. And before we hop into the chaos of the second half, especially late in the second half, what did you think of that first half? What was your kind of reaction seeing it go Everton 1-0 up, and then Liverpool bouncing right back immediately?
I was surprised on the goal how Liverpool's defense was just completely asleep because that was an easily preventable goal. It's a set piece. It was a run off of the shoulder of, I forget who the defender was, but he literally ran right in front, ran off the shoulder. That's so preventable. I mean, he did fantastically with the finish Beto did to be composed, take his time, and then just slot it right by Allison. But I was just kind of surprised they fell asleep like that, to be completely honest. But I mean, fair play to Everton. They came out ready to go. They really did. They came out ready to go. They came out with good intent. They weren't just going to defend. They wanted to go and win this game. And I was kind of surprised to see that in the first half. Liverpool did well, of course, to come back and get the goal. Great ball by Salah. And then McAllister, it's a great header. To flick it like that as you're backpedaling, put it bottom corner. I don't know why Pickford didn't dive. I feel like he could have dove and saved it. That's just my opinion. I thought he totally could have had that, especially with his quality. So I was a little surprised that he didn't dive and didn't save it. At least make an effort, you know? I guess he thought the post had him covered, but he still dived, right? So that kind of caught me off guard a little bit too, that he didn't dive, because I feel like he totally could have saved that. But nonetheless, that was a great ball and a great header. But yeah, it was a good first half. You know, it really was. Got a goal in the 11th, and then just about 5 minutes later, we get the equalizer. Yeah, it was an interesting first half. It was a fun one to watch, especially at the beginning.
Yeah, and it was still a very, very physical first half. We saw 5 yellow cards, 3 for Everton, 2 for Liverpool. But you said you were surprised to see Everton kind of come out immediately and try and be the full pressing team. I think a big part of that was the noise their crowd was making. They all kind of knew. And I think it was Virgil van Dijk even said after the match, or it might have been Trent. It was one of them.
Yeah,
they said, this is their cup final. And they acted like it was. Everton's not really playing for much. They seem relatively safe in the grand scheme of relegation. They're 10 points clear of the relegation zone. I would be shocked if they really, truly fall into it again. So this is it. This was like, they're out of the cups. They're not really playing for any silverware. Let's go out and beat our biggest rivals at our stadium for the final time. And they were looking like they could do that. They looked very strong. Second half comes along, 73rd minute, the inevitable one. Mohamed Salah gets yet another goal, I think, to extend his lead atop the gold boot race. Now he's 22 goals. Erling Haaland right behind with 19, and then a pair of players with 17. But still, when Salah scored, I kind of thought, this seems about right. We might be done here. And then James Turoski, out of nowhere, in the 98th minute, 8th minute of stoppage time, they were given it 5 minutes initially. Some stuff happened here and there, subs, injuries, all that stuff. Ball gets played across, and I think the craziest part of this whole goal that he scores was the initial cross trying to come in from the left to the left side of the field, crossing it across to the right side. The ball was deflected. Great stop by the defender. Ball just bounces up. First time cross, gets through. Header, ball kind of bounces around, and then a rocket of a right foot. Traorski just rips it into the top of the net. If he went even half an inch higher, hits the bar or goes over, anywhere lower, and it's probably being saved. So put it in the perfect spot, and then the madness ensued after that. But before we go into that little madness, what did you think it was over before he even hit that shot?
Oh yeah, I did. I thought it was game. I didn't see him coming back in. They got a goal in the second half that was offside.
Yep.
So I kind of just felt like this is one Liverpool is going to find a way to pull out, right? Everton literally already got a goal, had it called back because of offside. It's towards the end. I thought it's over, right? And Tarkowski kind of came out of nowhere in that play, right? He wasn't involved. And then he just showed up last second, caught it as perfectly as you can on the volley, had a little out swinging bend on it as well. Just roofed it. Impossible to save. That's like the perfect way you could send off the Merseyside at Goodison Park. A goal like that to equalize, for them, that's a win.
Oh,
for them, that is a win. The fans were going crazy. The scenes were awesome. It led to some crazy after the game kind of shenanigans, which we'll talk about in a sec. But man, that was thrilling. And that is what football is all about. Little moments like that, right? Everton fans are going to remember that. The ones who were there, the ones who were watching on TV, they're going to remember that for the rest of their lives. James Tarkowski is going to be able to talk about that to his grandchildren about, I was the one who scored the equalizing last goal at Goodison Park in the last Merseyside Derby ever to be played there. It was phenomenal. Like, there's no other way to put it. Like, that's literally what we love about this game is moments like that. It was awesome to see. And Everton deserved it. They played pretty well this game, to be completely honest. Throughout the course of the game, before that, they had 9 shots. Sure, they were getting outpossessed, but they actually had more shots than Liverpool did.
Mm-hmm.
That gave them 10 and 3 on target. So at the end of the day, they only had 1 fewer on target, but they had 4 more total shots. And again, less possession, but that's going to happen against a very strong, very good Liverpool team. Everton played well. And I will say, ever since David Moyes has come back, you've seen these improvements with Everton. They look better across the board, defensively for the most part, and then offensively as well. And they're getting some good results. So, I mean, it was an awesome, magical moment. And it kind of just caps off this recent positive shift that we've seen ever since David Moyes has returned to the club.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, you look at just their recent results. Prior to this one, they'd won 3 consecutive in the Premier League, beating Tottenham, Brighton, and Leicester. They went out in the FA Cup over the weekend, but came in, did what they had to do against the top team in the league. That I think it's over. I think they're about to win the title here, and we'll get into our reasoning behind that when we get into some predictions and previews a little bit down the road today.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also just the unsung hero of Traorski, a center back. You said he wasn't even involved in the play, kind of just ran up last second, just let's throw a Hail Mary up and see what happens. Rips it, first goal of the season, and then the chaos ensued. And man, was it entertaining. Exactly what we kind of expected from a game like this. As we mentioned, 5 yellow cards in the first half. Curtis Jones got 1 early in the second half. And then it was Decore for Everton. After the final whistle, he immediately runs over to the corner of the Goodison Park where the Liverpool fans are sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of just, in your face, we drew you. And Curtis Jones comes out and doesn't quite just rock him, but definitely gets in his face, kind of gives him a nice shove, and everything goes crazy from there. Full teams kind of come over. It looked like almost a bench-clearing brawl in baseball, where everybody just runs onto the field. No one's really throwing punches or anything, but it's a little bit of pushing, shoving, grabbing. My favorite thing from all that was watching it live. The USA Network stream broadcast of it. You just see a water bottle come flying over the top and land right in the middle and hitting some player in the side. It was like, yeah, this sounds about right.
It's great. That's like exactly how it'd finish off. Yeah.
And then to sum it up, Arne Slot gets shown a red card.
Which could be big.
Yes, from what I read this morning, he's now suspended for 2 matches, which it's Liverpool, so they should be okay. Looking at their upcoming matches, home to Wolves, at Aston Villa.
That's the one.
It is the one. But fortunately, he comes back before games at Man City, home to Newcastle. So there's that, but it's still going to be a big miss for them in these upcoming fixtures. And
yeah.
I think you said something to the ref as he was walking off or shaking his hand at the end. Something.
I think that's what it was when he went up to shake his hands. Who's the ref? Michael Oliver?
I believe so.
Yeah, I forget. I think so. Yeah, he said something.
Yeah, it was Michael Oliver.
And that's what got him the red. That's what got him the sending off, which I don't know, man. I don't want to comment because obviously Arne Slot's a fantastic manager. Has shown that this year. I'm more of the your team's better when you're on the sideline kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I don't think your team really needs you to go and like let's look at this in college basketball terms or NBA terms, right? Your team is down. They need some kind of boost. There's a call that doesn't go your way. As a coach, you get a technical because you're yelling at them. You're fighting for your team. That gets them riled up. That turns the tide, right? Liverpool doesn't need the tide turned right now. You know, they have got a still relatively comfortable lead, 7 points on top of the Premier League table. I don't think he needs to say anything there. You know, they're going to be better with him on the sideline, especially with this Villa game coming up, which it's never an easy place to play at Villa Park. And now you're going to have to do it without your manager on the sideline. So I don't know exactly what he said. If I'm him, why say anything, right? The game's done. Sure, you could be upset about something. You could be I don't know what it was exactly. I don't know full details, but just think about it long term, right? Your team's going to be better with you on the sideline. They don't need you to go make an ass of yourself to prove a point, to get them riled up. So just walk off the field. That's just my opinion on it. Again, better manager than us. He probably knows what he's doing. He's got this all figured out. But from my perspective, at least, that's what I'm thinking.
And also, like, just to the comparison of the college basketball NBA reference, it's if something happened about halfway through this game and you're down a goal and you think you were rightfully wronged, then I get it. You get a yellow card kind of thing. But it was also full time. The match was done.
Mm-hmm.
Put it behind you. You still get a point on the road. At the end of the day, they're still 7 points clear. This was their match in hand, so it could have been 9 points clear, and at that point, it's done, I think.
Yeah, it's looking like that.
But it's still – and I don't think Liverpool has anything to hang their head about. Everton kind of was just one of those days that you knew they were going to come in and make it a pain in the ass to play, and that's what they did. So – any other thoughts or comments on this one before we move on to a little bit of FA Cup action?
We can move on.
Fair enough. And we will start with the biggest shock of the weekend. Liverpool, top of the Premier League table, as we just mentioned, took on Plymouth Argyle, who was bottom, or who still is bottom of the Championship. Oh, they're now second bottom. Luton. Talk about a fall from grace. Luton go and get up 2 seasons ago. Struggle in the Premier League, look really good against some teams, get relegated, and now they're about to get relegated again, it looks like. Back to League One they go. And don't get me wrong, Liverpool played a very young, very much a backup team. But props to Plymouth. They come out, get the 1-0 win at home. An own goal or a penalty was the difference. And I just think that just summed up the week coming up for Liverpool.
Yeah. Again, as strong as they've been, this was a pretty disappointing week.
Mm-hmm.
We just talked about the 2-2 draw with Everton. And then, losing to Plymouth in the FA Cup. That was one going in. You and I were doing our previews. I'm like, there's just no way. Yeah. It's not even worth entertaining. And then it happened. And, Plymouth did well. They did really well. They got their chance. They took it on the penalty. And I know Liverpool played a weaker squad, but everyone does that in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
You still expect them to beat Plymouth. Like, another moment.
in their lineup, they still had Luis Diaz, Diego Jota starting, Harvey Elliott's been solid, Joe Gomez,
Endo was in there.
Orlando Kelleher's was starting for half the Premier League season this year.
Exactly.
One of those.
Yeah.
I was thinking the craziest thing about this Plymouth side is they were out in the mud. They still look like they're going to be in trouble this season. But since they've sacked Wayne Rooney, this team has not gone like leaps and bounds or anything crazy, but they're consistently picking up points in the league.
Mhm.
They consistently, and if they're not, they're at least competing in games. So they're finding ways to get stuff done. They beat West Brom a few weeks ago, drew with Sunderland, who are both top 5 or 6 in the championship. And now they go out, beat Liverpool. They played Millwall yesterday, won that 5-1. And Millwall was a team who beat Leeds in the FA Cup over the weekend 2-0. So good on the Argyle. They're doing a lot of things right at the moment. I think they're still stuck with what they did with Wayne Rooney and how long they let him go. But this is just one of those wins that you'll remember if you were at this match, or if you're a Plymouth Argyle fan, you'll remember where you were when you beat Liverpool in the FA Cup.
Yeah, up the Pilgrims.
The Pilgrims indeed.
Yeah, we were talking about the Everton match and that being one of those moments that you love about this sport. This is one of the moments you love about the FA Cup. Seeing a much smaller club like Plymouth taking down not just the English, but the European giants of Liverpool. You know, it's just awesome stuff.
And we almost had a couple others that I just want to go through. I'll start with, it ended up being 2-1 Man City, but Leyton Orient of League One had an absolutely incredible start to that game.
How about that?
The shot was from about 40 yards out. If I'm not mistaken, it hit the bar and then bounced off Ortega and went in because it was listed as an own goal.
Yeah.
But you go up 1-0 at home against the 4-time defending Premier League champions. That's quite something. Ultimately lost 2-1. Man City just showed their class in the second half. But the other one that, so close. League One side, Exeter City, who's at 18th, hosted Nottingham Forest, who are 3rd in the Premier League. They go up 1-0 after 5 minutes. They go down 2-1 heading into the half. Get level. Then they get a guy sent off in the 87th minute. And I don't know if you watched that or not.
I watched the highlights. I wasn't able to watch it live.
But after the red card for Exeter, they were so close to winning that match in regulation. They almost stole it against Forest. Sure enough, goes into extra time. You're playing man down against a team about 40, 50 spots higher than you in the grand scheme of all the tables lined up. Goes to penalties, and that's just where the pressure hit Exeter. Ultimately lost 4-2 on the penalty kick shootout. But fair play. Another team that you punched well above your weight, and you really gave it to one of the top teams in Europe or in England.
Yeah, they can be proud of that. Like, their fans should be incredibly proud. Took them all the way to pens. You're down a guy for over 30 minutes in stoppage time. And yeah, it just took a penalty save, and then you basically hit the top corner.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it came down to. Really sad because I really wanted that to happen. That would have been amazing if that happened. Get Liverpool and Forest out, 2 potential Champions League qualifying Premier League squads, losing to lower league English teams would have been awesome. But, I mean, still, great effort by them. Forest skated by. They had the sub guys in. They had to bring guys in as the game went on. Gibbs White had to come in. Chris Wood. I don't think Chris Wood started, did he?
No, he came on in about the last minute of regular time.
Yeah. They had to bring Chris Wood into the game. They made a goalkeeping change. They had to actually start taking it seriously because of how well Exeter was playing. So, I mean, hats off to them. They did a great job.
Yeah, it was also just want to, before I let you talk on some games, it was a weird week of just excitement. First minute goals, last minute goals. Aston Villa went up 1-0 over Tottenham within 30 seconds. Tottenham got the one back at the very, very death. Brighton and Chelsea, which we'll dive into in a second because they play again this weekend. It was exciting. Birmingham City went up 1-0 against Newcastle, who needed an 82nd minute winner to sneak by the championship side. And Burnley go out and beat Southampton 1-0. That's one we talked about coming into this week on last week's episode. Burnley looked damn good in the championship. Southampton have been the worst team in Premier League history as of right now. Got that result. And then the other one I want to talk to you about. How does Man U keep doing this against teams like Leicester? Harry Maguire this time. First it was Xerxes who equalized within 4 minutes of being subbed on. Harry Maguire in the 93rd minute somehow scores a late winner to beat Leicester. Crazy week of FA Cup action. Is there anything that's really, really stands out to you?
I mean, we talked about the biggest upsets and stuff. Yeah, I mean, Man U finding ways to keep winning. I wonder if this is their competition. They won it last year, kind of skated by in some games. This year, beat Arsenal, then get by here with a 93rd minute Harry Maguire goal against his old club, Leicester. And now they got Fulham at home, which is very doable. Yeah. You know, they got a decent path, to say the least. Because we're in the what are we in? The round of 16 now? So they got a decent path forward. In terms of big teams that are left, you look at it, you've got Man City, and that's
they're taking on Plymouth. So
yeah, go Plymouth, by the way. I'm not expecting them to continue it. Go Plymouth. But in terms
they have two wins over Premier League sides so far in the FA Cup.
There you go. So who knows? Maybe it'll continue and get that 3. But I'm not seeing it happening. And it's kind of interesting, though, in terms of bigger brands in the Premier League, right? You think of the big 6. There's only 2 of them left. And it's one who's had a horrendous Premier League season in Man U, and then Man City. Everyone else is out in terms of big 6. Now you have Newcastle, who obviously has got money to burn, who's still in it. And Forest, who's had a very good season as well, and Villa. But I feel like it's kind of interesting to see like this round of 16 field is populated by teams that you just might not expect to be in it, at least at this point. And I'm not just talking about Plymouth and Preston and maybe Burnley, but I mean, and obviously, and Millwall as well. I totally didn't see them, but Ipswich is still in it, you know, Wolves and Bournemouth are still in it. So I don't know. It's kind of a fun little round of 16 we got going on here. It'd be cool to see someone who doesn't even have a shot at Champions League or anything like that getting a win. I'd love a Wigan kind of story with Ipswich. I think that would be awesome.
That would be, get relegated and see them go on. I also wouldn't mind seeing like a run by a championship team. We have a few left, as you mentioned: Burnley, Plymouth, Millwall, Cardiff City. Going to be very hard to do for all of these teams just because there's so many more games they already have to play in the league than their Premier League counterparts. But it's one that's like, why not? This year seems as wide open as we've had in years past. Inevitably, it's likely going to be a Man U, Man City rematch again, but maybe the draw gods can give us a matchup like that in the quarterfinals. This is also one that I could very well see a team like Newcastle kind of rise to the occasion, or an Aston Villa take advantage of the teams they have left to play. So should be exciting. The FA Cup is always a lot of fun to watch just because you do see a lot of teams that you never really know how they're going to do and what they're about. So it's fun from that aspect. We talked about Man City a little bit. I'm going to talk about them again here. Champions League took place. The first leg of the knockout round playoffs. Man City hosting Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Not again. Not again. Erling Haaland gets him underway 19 minutes in. Kylian Mbappe responds in the 60th, make it 1-1. Haaland gets a penalty in the 80th, and as usual converts it. Before we hop into the last 6 minutes, did you think we were going to see chaos like we did following Erling Haaland's second goal of the game? Or do you think we'd see Man City kind of just cruise it out?
I thought we would see City cruise it out. I thought they were actually looking relatively all right. Foden came in, did what he had to do to get that penalty. Great footwork.
Yeah.
Able to draw it. Holland buries it, does his job. I thought in Manchester they'd take care of business. Now I thought heading into Madrid, a 2-1 advantage isn't enough. So I had concerns for them heading forward, but I thought they'd be able to see this out. I did not see the collapse, the calamitous collapse that we saw. I did not expect that at all.
No, I'll start with the first goal. 86 minutes. Vinny Jr. gets the assist to Brahim Diaz, the former Man City player, Brahim Diaz. And I think that was all Ortega's fault. I know it was tough.
Ederson.
Ederson, yeah, not
Yeah.
Ortega. Yeah, Ederson's fault. The ball was shot at him. It was kind of a weird angle. Took it with his chest instead of trying to catch it or parry it away. Ball bounces perfectly to Vinny, who just passes it to a wide open Diaz. And there we have it, 2-2. And then Jude Bellingham, Man City somehow allows a counterattack. Vinny Jr. once again, star boy, finds Jude Bellingham. All he has to do, kind of slide and just get a touch on it, and he does reach just enough and gets the ball in the back of the net in the 92nd minute to wrap it all up. We've talked time and time again, and I think we kind of have our answer as far as like, oh, Man City's defense is just this bad, but this was an unfathomable collapse against a team like Real Madrid that continuously, time and time again, fight to the very end.
Mm. Yeah, I'm going to put a lot of this on Ederson.
Yep.
The second goal of the game, it started with him losing the ball in the buildup inexplicably. Just gives it away right to Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
They immediately bring it down their throats. And as you said, the way he saved that made no sense. He took it off his chest. Why? No goalkeeper is going to do that. No goalkeeper should do that. He took it off his chest, something that should have been I'm not saying you got to catch it, but it should have been a more routine save based on the angle and how good Ederson is. He took it off his chest, bounces right into Brahim Diaz's path, puts it away. That's on Ederson. It's 100% on Ederson. You can maybe say they should have done a better job of tracking Brahim Diaz. Sure. But at the end of the day, he gave the ball away and then saved it off his chest like an absolute donkey right into Brahim Diaz's path. That's on him. And then the goal right after, I mean, we could talk. Defense doesn't get a pass on this one. I have no idea why you're reaching up with your foot like that rather than just defending. You allow Vinny to come through. But this is where I've got a problem with Ederson. Why did he come out so aggressively? He had Ruben Diaz in pursuit right there.
Mm-hmm.
I am trusting Ruben Diaz to at least force a bad angle shot.
Yep.
You know, he was there. He did great with his recovery. Ederson had no need to come out like that. And because he did, he allowed the ball to be chipped over like that, and Jude Bellingham gets the easy tap in. I don't know what Ederson was doing. I think he sold that game for them, to be completely honest, because they were fine. If the second goal doesn't happen, the third goal doesn't happen. And even after the second goal happened, mistakes happen. You make mistakes. That's fine. But don't come rushing out trying to be a hero on the third goal and then screw your team, because now you got to go to Madrid and you got to win. And that is tough because this Madrid team is insanely good, insanely talented. And now you got to go to play in one of the most hostile environments in the world, in a different country. I don't know. Ederson sold that game, and it's so disappointing to see if you're a Man City fan. And I saw some people calling for City to go find a new goalkeeper.
That was going to be my next question for you. Do you think it's time to move on from Ederson?
It might be. It might be, because we've seen too many examples of both Ederson and Ortega not playing up to their standards this season. And it's cost City in a lot of games. You know, obviously backline still needs an overhaul. I don't think they did enough in terms of getting an experienced defender to come in and solve their problems. They went young, and if they're focusing on the future rather than the present, okay, but I still think they needed to bring someone in to help that out. But goalkeeping has also been such a big issue this year, and this just highlights it even more. Ederson's great in the build-up, right? He's great for how Pep wants his goalkeepers to play on the ball. At least he has been great. We've seen examples where he just gives it away, like in this game. He gives it away, and then he doesn't have the goalkeeping ability to save it after. He doesn't have the goalkeeping ability to get himself and his team out of trouble when he does make that mistake, you know? So I'm thinking yes. There are going to be keepers out there who may not be able to hit a 70-yard through ball like Ederson, but they can at least keep the ball out of the back of the net more consistently. If I were Pep Guardiola, if I were the backroom staff, I would be looking at possibly moving on from Ederson, depending on who I can get. But I'd be looking into that possibility for sure. And Ortega's not – he hasn't shown that he's able to take the reins either. So I'd be looking elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the goals. Last season when Man City won the title again, they had allowed 34 goals all season.
Mm-hmm.
So far this season, through 24 matches, they've conceded 35 goals. So they've already beaten their entire total from last year. Ederson, he is so good on the ball that I think that's part of what makes him think, oh, I can just take it off my chest and just play it out because I've done it time and time again. You do it against teams like Real Madrid that have lethal goal scorers and guys who will rush your net. It's almost like a hockey goalie. You don't want to give the bounce because there are certain teams that have players swarming the net. Real Madrid is one of those that are always looking to score no matter what the score is already. And now they have to go to Madrid. In the between playing Newcastle and Liverpool.
Yeah.
Talk about one hell of a week.
Yeah. And I don't see him getting more than one win.
Yeah.
In this stretch. I'm calling that now. Okay. And I really don't see this Madrid one turn in their favor. It could. Unexpected things happen, but I just don't see it.
No, not great at all. As far as other Champions League goes, pretty straightforward results. AC Milan lost to Feyenoord.
That was an upset.
Kind of a shock. A 3rd-minute goal for Feyenoord, the Dutch side.
Terrible keeping. Terrible goalkeeping.
Yeah, that was just one of those ones. And Milan's been solid this season. Nothing.
Not in the league, but in Champions League.
Yeah, Champions League they've been good. But I think the best match ultimately at the end of the week, outside of the Madrid game and Man City, because that was just so thrilling, was Bruges and Atalanta.
Mm-hmm.
A 94th minute penalty that VAR awarded to Club Bruges saw the team that ended Aston Villa's run in the Champions League group stage of unbeatenness, at least, struggled against Man City, drew with Juventus. They go and beat Atalanta now, 2-1 in the 94th minute. With that being said, Atalanta's 3rd in Serie A, just 5 points back. Club Bruges, meanwhile, is not exactly doing great. They're 6 points back of Genk in the Belgian Pro League. So pretty good result there for them. I see most of the teams who won in the first leg kind of taking advantage in the second and moving on personally.
I do too. I think Atalanta will get that one back. They just missed out on that bye. They finished 9th in the table, so they were right there. Bruges was the last team to qualify. And Bruges is good. I mean, we've seen other times, other Champions League years in the old format, they went on a little bit of a run not too long ago. Like, this team is kind of made for Champions League surprises, it feels like. But I'm back in Atalanta at home in Italy to get it back. But I would agree with you on what you said, as most teams will take advantage of their first leg victories and success and carry them in the second leg. PSG for sure went to Brest and won 3-0. They're coasting. Borussia Dortmund, they kicked ass in their game against Sporting. I think, for the most part, you're going to see that. But I do think you'll see teams like Atalanta come back and win. I'm going to back Milan in Milan. That one I'm going to back. I don't see City doing it, though. Mm-mm. I don't. Going back to this point, in Madrid, love to be surprised because I basically root for anyone but Madrid. But
it's the Barcelona cap on your head at the moment.
But I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't either. And it's kind of funny looking at this. There were, of the 8 matches that happened, Juventus Bruges, and Feyenoord all won at home.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the other 5 matches were all won by the visiting team, who now have a lead going back to their home stadium. Benfica won over Monaco.
Mhm.
Bayern Munich should be fine, up 2-1 over Celtic.
Yep.
Celtic did score a goal about 30, 40 seconds in that VAR then said was offside by the slimmest of margins, but it was, I think, the right call in the end. But it's just one of those ones that, like, I don't see Sporting coming back from 3 down. I sure as hell don't see Brest coming back from 3 down.
No way.
So we'll see next week, midweek once again. Going to be more Champions League action. But in the meantime, we have a full-fledged weekend of Premier League action coming up for you. And Jackson, I'll let you get us underway. Match of the week decided Man City and Newcastle seem the most logical. 2 teams fighting for Champions League spot. What is your thoughts going into this one after the catastrophe that we just talked about with Man City at midweek?
I'm interested with this one. These teams are as level as you can be. They're both equal in points with 41 each. They both have the same goal difference of plus 13. Only difference is City scored a few more. Newcastle's conceded a few less. This game's, I don't really know, to be completely honest. I don't really know. But I'm going to say Newcastle. And the reason I'm going to say Newcastle is City's struggling with the collapse against Madrid, right? So that's a mental thing. But they're also thinking ahead to the second leg against Madrid. So it's not like you just look at this and, oh, we fell apart here. Let's turn our focus here. That's coming up on the horizon. And you also got another big game coming up right after that as well. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot on their mind. I think Newcastle is going to be able to sneak this. I'm going to be completely honest. I think City's going to have possession. They're going to have chances. I think Erling Haaland does get on the score sheet if he plays, but I think he'll play.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll play. I'm backing him to get on the score sheet, but I think Newcastle's going to score a couple. I don't think City's defensive woes get resolved in this, and I think Newcastle's going to be able to take advantage. I'm going 2-1, and with that win, if Newcastle wins that game, there were 3 points ahead of City in the Champions League race, and depending on what Chelsea does, they could hop them and get themselves into the top 4 again. So it's a huge game with huge consequences. If City wins, they put themselves ahead of Newcastle, and you might back them just because they're the home team and because it's City after all. But I'm going Newcastle. I think they'll find a way to sneak this. City's woes continue defensively.
I agree about City's defensive issues, but I think Ederson steps up in this one a little bit more than he did. I think he's going to try and put everything that happened in the midweek out of his mind, get back to the way he can play. I still think Man City concedes one, but I just think they are still the better team. Mm-hmm. Had this match been played about 2.5 weeks ago when Newcastle was looking like the best team in the world, I would probably have backed Newcastle. Mm-hmm. But it's still the Etihad. It's still Man City. It's still Erling Haaland. I'm going to lean with Man City. I think I'm going to take them 2-1, so opposite scoreline of yours. But it's one that it depends on what Newcastle side shows. It depends on what City side truly shows up. Are they going to look ahead to the Champions League and to Liverpool next weekend? But if you look ahead to Liverpool, what's the point in looking ahead to that game if you don't get points and win against Newcastle? Because if in the grand scheme of things you're still trying to chase the Premier League title, which they shouldn't be, they're 16 points back.
They're not good.
Insane to think about. Your target's Chelsea. And Chelsea's playing a tough Brighton team who we saw what they did to Chelsea in the FA Cup this week. We'll dive into that shortly. But this is one that I just think City have to win for Champions League proud or for Champions League hopes, because I don't think there's any chance in hell that they beat Madrid.
No.
They didn't win the Carabao Cup. They still have a chance to win the FA Cup, I guess.
Yeah, a decent chance, too, when you look at who's left.
But the FA Cup, I don't think qualifies you for the Champions League.
It's
I think it's Europa
League, yeah.
If they want to make the Champions League next season, their 2 hopes are either finish in the top 4 or pull off some miracle against Real Madrid and then get through the gauntlet that is the rest of the Champions League this year and somehow win it, which I don't see any
I
chance
don't.
of happening.
I only see one English team with a chance of doing that. To be
Aston Villa.
completely honest, Aston Villa.
No.
Now Liverpool.
Yeah, 100%. So I think Man City needs to focus all of their attention on this one, and I think they will. I think Pep is going to try and get the boys into shape and at least try and finish in that fourth place spot. Reminds me of, have you ever seen the movie Semi-Pro? Flint Tropics, Jackie Moon.
Is that yeah, I know what it is. I haven't seen it. I've seen clips of it.
Okay, so premise in that is their ABA team, they're trying to finish in fourth place, and that's all they want to do is finish in fourth place. That's all Man City should do this year. They're not going to win anything. Finish for that fourth place, and let's see what happens if they can do that. We did just bring up Brighton and Chelsea. That game is on tomorrow, so I think we'll hop into that one real quick. Curious, because Brighton, like I said, beat Chelsea 2-1 at the weekend in the FA Cup. It wasn't quite the same lineups that we've seen, but it's pretty damn close to their top lineups.
Mm-hmm.
And for everything we've talked about, Man City struggling defensively and the goalkeeping issues there, Chelsea, God, Robert Sanchez has been bad as of late.
He has been bad. And I mean, I find it funny, first of all, just talking about this FA Cup game. For as much as Chelsea has scored this season and been a threat offensively, Brighton scored all three of those goals.
Yeah.
2 for themselves, and Bart Verbruggen got the own goal. I find that kind of funny, just based on how we've been talking about Chelsea all season and all this. But moving to the Premier League and just looking towards this game, it's basically a carbon copy of the FA Cup game in terms of it's at Brighton. It's literally right after what we just had. And as you said, the lineups were pretty strong across the board. I think Chelsea basically had their starting group in for the most part.
Yeah.
Brighton basically had their starting group in for the most part as well. So I think it's going to be like a carbon copy version of this game. I'm very curious to see what difference it makes looking at FA Cup versus Premier League, right?
And this is one that it comes down to the managers, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to Enzo Maresca for Chelsea, Fabian Herzler for Brighton, and what adjustments they make. But I'll let you continue with what you're saying.
And that's a great point. And I'm going to back Enzo Maresca, to be completely honest. I like him as a manager. I like what he's been doing as a manager. I think he's got the leg up on Fabian Herzler, to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
Still a little bit young, still a little bit fresh.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's really young, Fabian Herzler. I forget his exact age. I think he's in his 30s. I'm going to back Enzo Maresca to make the necessary changes for Chelsea to get this win. I just don't see them getting shut out like they did last time. I see at least 2 goals happening. I think Brighton's going to get 1. So I'm going to go reverse scoreline here, go 2-1 Chelsea.
Okay.
I think they'll get a couple goals. It'll be a good game. I'm going to back Chelsea.
Yeah, and fun fact, I just looked up Fabian Herzler. He's 31 years old. Do you know her? Do you know where? Yeah, from Houston.
Yeah, it's from Houston.
Huh. Never would have known that, because I mean saw that he played for the German youth team at some point. Played most of his career in Germany. It also is a very, very, very German sounding name.
It is.
Never would have thought he'd have been born in Houston, Texas, but he is 31, so has a lot of time left in his career, and he's already off to a great start. But I'm with you. I'm backing Chelsea. As far as the league goes, they're smelling the pressure coming from this Newcastle and Man City match. Fortunately for them, they play first. So which I think is kind of nice because it means like, okay, we can put ourselves 4 points clear. And that's just a huge mentality boost. Then it puts the pressure on both Man City and Newcastle. And that Chelsea winning tomorrow could completely change the mindset and the aspect of that Man City and Newcastle.
100%. Or you have to get a win.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
If they draw, it's like, okay, if we get a draw, we'll be right behind still by a point. If we win, we jump them somehow.
Yeah.
But I'm taking Chelsea. I do think they are the better team overall, and they also don't lose to Brighton in the league very often.
Yeah.
They've won quite a few in a row against Brighton. Last time they lost was the second game, or they lost both in the 2022-2023 season. Haven't lost to them since in the Premier League. Lost one cup game to them, which was this past weekend. So take it with a grain of salt, but I'm going 2-0 Chelsea. I think they get a clean sheet and get it done rather convincingly. For as confusing as some of these games might be, I think there's no game that is more confusing and could go either way this week than Tottenham and Man United. Because why would it make any sense one way or another?
Mm-hmm.
Two teams sitting, let me scroll all the way down the table, 13th and 14th.
Mm-hmm.
Man U 29 points, Tottenham's 27, the same amount as Everton and West Ham for Tottenham. I'm trying to think how to put this. Do you think this is going to be an exciting match for starters?
In a comical kind of way, maybe. Yeah, I'm honestly feeling a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, okay.
To be completely honest. And the reason I'm saying that is because I just don't know who to go with.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's not going to be who's better on the day. It's going to be who's worse. That's kind of where I'm at. And because of that, I got to go 1-1. I don't know. If someone's going to win, I'm inclined to take Tottenham because they're at home. And that's the only reason I have. And that's not a strong enough reason for me to give them the win. So I got to go 1-1. I think you'll see maybe a couple moments of brilliance. And by brilliance, I mean good dribbling, good passing, good chances. I have a feeling the goals are going to be coming from mistakes, easily preventable mistakes. That's my prediction. So I'm going 1-1. And like you said, who knows what this game will bring? Who knows? Maybe Tottenham comes out and kicks ass. Maybe Man U comes out and kicks ass. I think both teams will continue with what they've been doing this year, which is limping to the finish. I'm going 1-1.
Yeah, I like the 1-1 shout. I'm thinking it's going to be a high-scoring game. Personally, there's been multiple goals in every game they've played since 2019 was the last time it was a 1-0 game. Only other time that it's been like 2 goals was 2020. They drew 1-1. Then there's been a couple 2-0 victories in the last 3 years, but they played twice this season. Tottenham won the first one at Old Trafford back in September, 3-0. Then they played that 4-3 thriller in the EFL Cup that Tottenham stole at the very end and kind of held on to, I guess. I'm thinking this is going to be at least like 4 or 5 goals. I'm going to go 3-2 to Tottenham.
Okay.
I'm by no means convinced that Tottenham will necessarily win. But I think when it comes down to these two teams against each other, Tottenham is the better team. Neither of them are playing for anything. But I just have that gut feeling. I'm like, okay, Tottenham's going to get this one done. They're at home. They've already embarrassed Man U on the road earlier in the season. Yeah. So why not? Son will get on the score sheet. It's going to be someone crazy like Kulusevski will get on the sheet. And, God, this is going to be my bold prediction. I'll just take Bentancur to get a goal as well.
Okay. All right.
I also just don't trust the Man U defense at all. And Harry Maguire, for every game he does something good, he has 3 games after that he does something bad. He scored the winner against Leicester.
He's due
for a mess up here and there. I think that's what the difference is going to be. It's going to be the defense of Man U is going to collapse a little bit too much. Other game that we were going to kind of dive into a bit more because of the questions surrounding this Arsenal side in the attacking one is Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Arsenal heading to Leicester. And I'll let you take the news, but it's ugly attacking options, it seems, for Arsenal.
Yeah, Havertz is done for the season. So what that means is Arsenal has 3 senior players who are forwards left. You've got Trossard, you've got Sterling, you've got Waneri. That's it. So this leaves Arsenal in a very interesting and precarious situation. And it's one that I felt like needed to be addressed during the winter transfer window, and it just wasn't. I know we threw out a bid for Ollie Watkins on a day they did Champions League game. That didn't feel like real effort to me.
No.
We needed another reinforcement up top, especially, and we just didn't get it. And I think now it's going to come back to bite Arsenal in the ass, to be completely honest, because you have 3 senior players right now who are able to play forward naturally. You got to get creative now, right? Probably going to play Trossard, maybe a false 9 kind of role, and then Sterling and Neri on the wings. It's the only solution you can really have. And then apart from that, you're going to have to get creative. If you need to make subs, if you need to change things up, you might have to put Kieran Tierney at left wing. You might have to put Mikel Merino, who's a 6, up top for his aerial prowess, and just have him be like a target forward, basically. Arsenal is in a very bad spot right now because of injuries. And it's disappointing because I feel like more effort could have been made to address this before it even became an issue, but it hasn't. So now you have Havertz out. Saka is still out probably until April. Maybe can get back mid-March.
Is Martin out at the moment?
Yeah, Martinelli's out for about a month.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, the Gabby Jesus injury. It just keeps going on and on and on when you look at the attacking injuries that Arsenal has sustained. Luckily, it's a fairly favorable stretch of games coming up, at least in the near future. You know, you got Leicester City this weekend, then you got West Ham away coming up. That should be a win. You think both would be wins on paper, right? And then after that, though, Forest away, it's not easy. Forest is damn good. Yeah. I trust Arsenal's back line to keep them from scoring. But who's actually going to score for Arsenal with everyone injured, with how strong Forest's back line has been this season? Because it has been very strong. You know, they defend pretty well. I don't know who's gonna do that. And then after that, you have Champions League. We got next round of Champions League. This could be the end of Arsenal's ambitions in terms of Premier League and Champions League. We'll see, right? But we've seen in other years how injuries have derailed the season. I think back to when Arsenal was leading the league. It looked really good come March, and then Saliba got hurt, right? Just like that, you're out of the Europa League, and City comes back and wins the league 2 years ago. I just think this is kind of the end, especially when you're talking about Premier League. Already 7 points back. You're going to need someone to step up. Now, I'm not saying Arsenal can't do it. I think there's still plenty of quality in the squad. But to do it every week when you're missing as many players as Arsenal is, I just don't see it happening. I feel good for the next 2 games. I'm hoping we can get some people back and at least closer to full health during those 2 weeks. Well, I guess it'd be a week and a half at this point, basically. Then after that, I don't know, because you got Forest away, Man U away, Chelsea coming up. It's tough, you know. It's tough. Hopefully we can get some guys back. Yeah, it's going to be tough to replace, because as much as I get so frustrated watching him play, because I think he should be finishing way more than he is, he still is contributing so much. I think he's got 3rd or 4th most minutes on the team. He does still bag a decent amount of goals, and he creates a lot with his movement, right? Yeah. So that's a huge loss. And just adding that to the pile of injuries that Arsenal has right now, I just think it's going to be too much to overcome, to be completely honest. I think his injury is like the final nail in the coffin. Because I don't see Arsenal getting, max amount of points the rest of the way with a severely reduced front line. And that's what they're going to have to do if they want to win this league. They're going to have to do that. They got to beat Liverpool when it comes. And you got to hope Liverpool drops points, which I bet you they will. But I just don't think Arsenal has the firepower left to compete.
No, I think the nail in the coffin is actually going to be this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I think the lack of, just looking at the goal scorers, here are the top 5 goal scorers for Arsenal this season. Kai Havertz with 9, Martinelli with 6,
out.
Saka with 5,
out.
Trossard with 4,
okay,
Jesus with 3.
Yeah,
I don't see Arsenal losing this game.
Mm-hmm.
I think this will end up being either a 1-1 or a 0-0 draw, just because of how good the Arsenal defense is.
Mhm.
Maybe if anyone's going to win, it'll be Arsenal. I just don't see the likes of Martin Odegaard stealing a winner, Declan Rice getting a winner. Trossard has been so inconsistent.
Yeah, that's the
You're
problem.
also missing, as far as the top 4 guys in assists go, you're missing 3, or top 5 guys in assists on Arsenal go. You're missing 3 of the top 5. I don't see where this Arsenal team is going to get a goal from.
Yeah.
That is my concern. Are they the better team? Yes. Should they win this on paper? Absolutely.
Yes. Even with the injuries.
Even with the injuries, they should. But it just feels like one of those things that it's all just Kai Havertz is kind of the breaking point. He was kind of holding this team together enough over the recent stretches that now I'm like little skeptical. With that being said, though, they haven't played in coming up. It'll be around 10 days. So they've had plenty of time to get well rested and prepare for this game. I think that's a lot of time off. At this point,
maybe too much time off, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. It's because they were out of the FA Cup. They last played in the EFL Cup, which that didn't go exactly well against Newcastle. But we'll see what happens. I'm going with a draw.
Okay.
But if anyone's going to win, it'll be Arsenal. And we could see what happens with in the Man City game. Everyone stepped up. It wasn't just the 5 guys we've talked about who are all injured. It's Lewis Skelly scored, Nwaneri scored, Thomas Partey scored. It's kind of a bunch of players all coming together and doing it. So leaning a draw, just on gut feeling. But if anyone's going to win, it's Arsenal in my book.
Yeah. The biggest thing working in Arsenal's favor is that they get to play Leicester City.
Yeah.
You know, who has conceded the second most goals of any team with 53. They leak goals. So because of that, I think we'll be able to find a way.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be able to find a way. I'm going 1-0. I don't think it's a great 1-0, but I trust our set piece delivery. That's what it comes down to. We still have our set pieces. We have our corner kicks. I think that's where you'll see a goal. You got to get the goals from there, especially because run a play. Odegaard can create, but who's he going to play to? Sterling is a shell of himself because he's lost that kind of burst that he used to have. So he just doesn't look as comfortable and confident when he's going at guys. I don't have faith in him. Nwaneri's young. Who knows how he's going to play game to game, right? One game he could put an absolute beauty of a goal into the back of the net like he did against City. Other games he can just completely disappear and get swallowed up by older, more experienced players. And Trossard, as you mentioned, is inconsistent. So it's going to be set piece goal, I think. You got to rely on that. That's where you've been strong this year. I don't think there's a single team in the world that's stronger on set pieces than Arsenal is right now.
No, not at all.
I think that's where you get the goal. And I think with how bad Leicester has been defensively, you catch a kind of a break, right? You get a chance to get 3 points here and at least keep things close. And again, looking forward in the future, I still have faith going into the West Ham game at home that we'll be able to figure that out. And going forward from there, I think that's when you'll see the wheels really start to fall off.
I have a bold prediction for what Arsenal needs to do. This kind of just came to me while we were talking about set pieces.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy, he hasn't played in a few years, actually coming up on like 6 years now. But if there's ever a time for Peter Crouch to come out of retirement,
right?
Is in need of a guy up top. Tottenham fans would never forgive him. I will say that. But bring him in 6'7". I'm sure he can still jump a bit and get his head on the ball.
Yeah, put him back post.
Yeah, put him back post and just have him knock the ball in.
Head it back in or head it across. Yeah.
Exactly, one way or another.
Get him out of retirement. I don't know how fit he would be at this point in his life.
Well, you just bring him on as a super sub.
Maybe we could get 15 minutes out of him.
Have him go stand at the back post and just hope he gets connection on it.
Yeah, there you go. All we need is 15 minutes, Peter Crouch. We just need 15 minutes. Well, that's all we need.
You could say 15% or something on insurance. Or
there you go.
No.
Yeah, it's a promotional deal.
Hey, Geico.
Everyone wins.
All right. With that being said, we're going to go through. You want to touch on any other major matches or kind of just run through predictions here?
Somehow we're running long, so let's just get into these.
What about that? Yeah, we were looking at this like, Well, let's see where we go. Aston Villa, Ipswich Town. At Aston Villa, give me Villa, give me 2-0.
Give me Villa 2-0. I like that.
Fulham hosting Nottingham Forest. I'll let you kick this one off. What are you thinking here?
It's tricky. It's tricky, right? Fulham's good, and they're really good at home. But Forest deserves my respect. They deserve our respect. So I'm going to give it to them 2-1.
Yeah, Forest for me, they've also only dropped points 5 times on the road. They're the second best road team in the league. Fulham at home is 11th. They've lost 3, drawn 5. Give me Forest. Give me 2-1. 2-0, actually. I think they get a clean sheet.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know who you're taking in this one. Southampton are hosting Bournemouth. And whenever Southampton plays, you pick
Bournemouth.
Exactly.
Easy enough. Give me 3-0.
Yep. I'll tail with that. Anyone but Southampton at this point. They still have 9 points. How do you have 9 points through 24 matches?
Diabolical.
They're in the mud. West Ham hosting Brentford, a London derby. There, I'm leaning West Ham. They're just at home. I could see Brentford get going, but they've just been disappointing as of late. West Ham hasn't exactly been the most impressive, but I just have a feeling that they'll get it done at home before they have to play Arsenal next week, which we know they're going to lose.
Yeah, I think West Ham needs this. They're only 4 points back from Brentford, but just from an optics perspective, they just are way further down the table in 16th than 11th, right? So I think they need this more, and it's going to show in the game. I'm going – I feel like I'm going to be wrong, but my gut's telling me 2-1 West Ham. Give me that.
It's actually fascinating looking at the table, like you just mentioned, because we have Brentford, West Ham, who are 11 and 16th. Then the 2 teams above and below them are Palace and Everton, who they play each other, and they're 12th and 15th. And then in between them, it's Man U and Tottenham who play each other. So with this being like a 4-point difference, if West Ham wins and other results go their way, they could damn well jump from 16th up to 12th.
Exactly. Like it's very close once you get past 17th place, going up to mid-table for sure.
But yeah, taking West Ham and onto that Crystal Palace and Everton match. I think Everton's at a real high at the moment. I think it comes crashing down against Palace. I think they struggle. I don't think they lose. I think they draw. But I think it's going to be one of those really ugly games that they cannot get anything going right, and they get pretty dominated. Just somehow find a goal early on.
I'm back in Palace 2-1. I think Mateta gets on the score sheet. I feel like it has him written all over this game.
Last but not least, doesn't get much further away from teams in the table. Wolves heading to Anfield. Liverpool, after a rough week, losing to Plymouth, drawing with Everton. Did they get it done this week?
You don't know something. I'm feeling a sneaky draw.
Oh.
This is my bold prediction for the week right here. I think they're going to catch him off guard in the counter. I really do. And I think that's going to be 2-2. I think it'll be a 2-2 draw. I'm going way out there on this one, but I'm feeling it. I'm feeling Wolves. I've seen them on the counter recently, and I've liked what I've seen. And I'm wondering if Liverpool's a little frail and a little fragile after this past week.
Yeah.
So if there's ever a time to play them, it is this week. Now there could be an opposite reaction where they just come out and kick ass because of the week they had, which is definitely more likely. But I'm going 2-2. I think we'll get a 2-2 draw on. That's my bold prediction for this week.
No Arne Slot's a big concern for me. No Curtis Jones as well. He's solid when off the bench, so that kind of limits their depth a bit. Wolves actually have something to play for because there's a possibility that, say, Arsenal drops points on Saturday. This match is until Sunday.
Yeah.
So Liverpool could have a 6-7 point gap with a match in hand potentially once again. Yeah. And if that's the case, I could see them slip up a little bit, but I don't see it happening. I think they batter Wolves. Wolves have they're 17th of 20 teams for a reason. 2 points out of the relegation zone. I'm taking Liverpool. I'm taking them 3-0.
Okay.
Any final words, thoughts? Anything related to the footballing world or anything else?
I think we got it.
I do too. Thank you guys for watching. As always, we appreciate it as always. Make sure you click that subscribe button below and don't miss any of our other episodes. We'll be back next week for another episode, and we'll be talking about all these exciting matches that are happening this upcoming weekend. Don't want to miss it. We'll still have some Europa League today, some Conference League today. Let's get going. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week.